Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be watching something a little bit different. This is top 5, I believe. Top 5 true McDonald's horror stories. This is from the channel Nighttime Spooks. I wanted to make sure I got that right. Never reacted to this channel before. Yeah, I'm excited to get into this. I have the sunglasses on, you know, just because I feel like it's a lot of lights. It's very early. It's 6 a.m. I can't handle it all right now. So I figure it's just going to be mostly listening, mostly atmosphere. The editing on these are usually pretty good. I can make out the McDonald's logo and stuff like that. So I don't think it's just going to be too much of a problem not being able to fully see this. So I don't know. This is messy. Let's just get into it. I just thought this would be, this title is like kind of funny. I also used to work at McDonald's. My first job when I was 16. I worked there 2018 to 2020.
I used to work at a McDonald's many years ago. Mostly I was a cashier and I would take people's orders. I often worked at night and there would sometimes be some pretty late nights. Back then, the McDonald's that I worked at was open until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Damn.
Things would typically quiet down significantly from about 8 p.m. to the rest of the night. The last few hours would generally be very slow. Sometimes on weekends or other random nights it would get busy, but generally it was pretty quiet.
Sounds about right.
So one night I remember that I was working until 2 a.m. I can't remember what time it was exactly, but probably at about 10 o'clock, it became just me and one other coworker. It was a girl named Gloria, who I was friends with, and she was around my age,
Put the
but had
armrest
worked there a
down.
lot longer than me. She was a manager now and did whatever was needed, really. At this point, I was taking orders and she was doing all the cooking. It was just us two until close.
By the way, if you have ever worked in any sort of fast food setting, let me know what you prefer. Cooking or service? Because I started out cooking. I started out in the grill area. They threw me to the wolves, threw me in the deep end, because they had so many people up front. And like later on, like the longer I was there, they moved me to, that was grill manager and then crew trainer and then something. I was like basically a manager, but they had to like put me through the whatever first. So I was like in a weird stage where I was manager but not manager yet. So they had me doing all these things. They had me like wherever they needed me, wherever the actual manager on shift needed me. So I would be like working back there, but if they had someone training back there, they wanted to like get them to be able to run it for themselves the first time, they would have nobody up front. So it was just the manager and then the people, the new person in the back in the grill, and then they would have me come up front and deal with the customers. So it was very hectic. Working with customers is easier, but when you got a Karen, when you got these people, like, you know, it can definitely become more stressful. It's still easier, still less stress. Dude, when you're working in the grill area and someone like is taking forever in like changing their order, let me get no pickles on that. Or sorry, that was supposed to be only pickles. And let me get a 20 piece and let me get 2 large fries, or never mind, make those medium. I want a McChicken. And also a Big Mac, no Mac sauce. And you're just sitting there like, why do you want a Big Mac if you don't want Mac sauce? That's kind of what makes it, right? And let's actually take out the middle bun for the Big Mac. And let's add ketchup and mayonnaise. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? And also, can you take out the chicken on the McChicken and put a burger in there? It's like, what the fuck? What do you want? And they just keep going, and then there's a line of like 12 people, and you're supposed to be like breaking stuff down so you can close on time. Oh my god, it's so stressful. I hate it.
We got a few customers here and there, and it was really pretty quiet.
And we
Soon,
closed at 12,
around.
so we had less
I remember
slow
that I was
time
out
to
by the
work with.
register standing there and just hanging out. I happened to notice someone was outside in the parking lot though. It was a man, and he looked in on the large windows that we had. He was just standing there, not moving, but appeared to be looking at me.
Oh.
Maybe it was partly because it was midnight and very quiet, but the sight of him instantly gave me the creeps.
Yeah, I think
he
that
had
would
long
give
hair,
anyone
I
the
remember,
creeps.
and a beard as well. He looked to be maybe in his 30s or so. I was sort of confused as to what he was doing and thought that maybe he would come inside. To be honest though, I didn't want him to.
Yeah.
The man continued to stand there and stare at me.
Makes sense.
After like 30 seconds of this, I got too uncomfortable and I walked into the back. I went over to Gloria, who was bored with nothing to do because there were no customers. She was watching this mounted TV that was in the corner of the kitchen, so I joined.
Y'all got a TV in there? Oh, that would have made work so much easier when I was there.
Joined her for a minute or two.
What the fuck?
Then I went back out to the front and I looked out of the window and the man was gone.
Oh.
I was glad to see that. So a while later, maybe an hour,
That music
I believe was
ramped
the
up,
next
and I thought it
customer
was
to
gonna
come
be.
inside. I helped them, and I remembered that I gave them their food and they went to leave. It was then that I noticed the guy was outside of the window again.
Oh my
He
god.
was standing there and looking at me once more. I was surprised that he was back, and once more, I did not want him to come inside.
By the way, if you see me looking around, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I'm keeping an eye out for Selena. These videos make me so paranoid that I'm going to turn around and see someone just standing in the corner of the room. It makes it scarier that I can't really see right now. So, yeah, I'm going to be fidgeting and tossing and turning here.
And he still didn't.
It is what it is, I'm
After
a wuss.
like a minute, I went to the back to tell Gloria about the guy, and when we came back, he was gone. I was a tiny bit disappointed because I wanted Gloria to see the strange man, but I was also glad that he was gone because I had been nervous that he was going to come inside.
Well, he came back, so why are you relieved that he's gone?
For some reason. So, for the final hour of us being open, we didn't get any customers and I didn't see the guy. At 2 a.m., we locked up, and several minutes later, I was ready to leave. Because Gloria was the manager, she was going to stay back for a few minutes and finish up some other stuff. I was tired from work and excited to go home and sleep, so I went to the door. When I did though, I was afraid that the man was going to be out in the parking lot somewhere. I didn't see him, but I was still worried. So after I went outside, I just sprinted to my car, which was not that far away. Then I got inside and I started the engine.
That's what I would do.
It was at that time when I looked.
If he's in the back seat, I'm gonna lose my shit.
Looked out of the window and I saw the man standing on the other side of the parking lot a ways away. I was afraid that he might approach me or something, so I quickly drove away and left. By the next time that I worked, I had mostly forgotten about the man.
How?
Now, I believe it was like a week later, or maybe 2 weeks later. It was basically the same setup as before, which was fairly common. It was a quiet night at about midnight. Me and Gloria were the only two people working once again. So I recall that at some point a little after midnight,
hey, by the way, this is so unrelated and it's ruining the vibe. I get it. I'm not going to pause that much throughout this because this video is going to be long enough already. I just want to say that is so real. Like when you get into that comfortable setup with like the manager that's been there for a long time, longer than you got like your chill people, like the like 1 or 2 or 3. Usually when I worked there, it was like 3 or 4 people on a night shift. It's so easy to get lost in how comfortable that can be. You know what I mean? Like, when you're one of the last people left with, like, the few managers and people that have been there the whole time.
I saw the man again, and I instantly remembered him. He was doing pretty much the same thing of just standing there outside and staring at me. But this time, after like 30 seconds, I saw him turn and walk away. I didn't know who this guy was or what he was doing. The way he would just stand there and stare at me was very creepy though. So I didn't see him after that for the rest of the time that we were open. At 2 a.m. we locked the doors. Soon after, I went to leave. This time though, before I left McDonald's, I noticed that the man was in the parking lot, and he was standing right behind my car. I would have to walk right past him to go to my car, and he was also staring at me. I went to Gloria to show her the guy. When she came back, she saw that the guy was still there. He was just standing there and staring at us both now. I wanted to leave, but I did not want to walk past him. After about a minute, we opened up the door and asked the man to please leave the property. When we said this, he did not leave, but instead he started walking in our direction.
Oh, hell no.
We quickly closed the doors again, which would automatically lock now. The man reached the doors and tried entering McDonald's.
Ew.
Thankfully, he couldn't get in. Gloria and I considered calling the police. We didn't want to have to do that if he wasn't dangerous or anything though, so we decided to just wait around for a short time longer.
Are you dumb?
Gloria and I finished up everything that had to...
Motherfucker, he is waiting by your car. What are we doing? Literally, why? What are you... Huh? Bro, just say you wanted the story to go on longer.
...be done. By the time that we were done with that, the man was still in the parking lot. We waited around for probably another 10 minutes. Then, finally, we saw the man casually walk away and leave the McDonald's premises. Gloria and I then went to the door and we both quickly ran for our cars. We were then able to leave and go home.
Do something to your car, though?
After that shift, I never saw the man again. I only worked at the McDonald's for about another month, though. I think that Gloria worked there longer, so it will be interesting to know if she ever saw the guy again. One thing for sure, though, is that he definitely gave me the creeps. The way he just stood there staring at me in the empty parking lot is something that I will never forget.
That's it? That's the whole story? Man, come on. I thought it was going to get juicy there.
Back in 1999.
Oh, the old McDonald's,
When I was a kid,
Yo, bro. They need to go back. This whole real estate shit where every single fast food place looks the same, it's just a box. That shit pisses me off. It pisses all of us off. They need to go back to this. Give your buildings, your branding, character. Nobody likes this minimalist garbage. Stop trying to save money. You got enough of it.
I used to love going to McDonald's. It was probably my favorite restaurant, and I loved getting the Happy Meals. They would come with a toy, and I thought that was really cool. So back during this time period, I was 7 years old, and I remember that I was hanging out with my cousins and sister one day.
Want to do some child versions of it? Like just childhood McDonald's stories? Okay, I thought this was going to be like mostly employee stuff, but okay, that works. Some variety to it. I like that. By the way, I'm mostly looking over this way because I got my OBS over here.
We were at my uncle's house, which was actually on the same street as my parents' house.
I'm not used
it was
to doing
cool
this.
to live close by, and we would hang out a lot. At the time, my sister was 9 years old, and my cousins were age 5, 10, and the oldest was 14. The 14-year-old was a girl named Jane, and she would babysit all of us a lot back then. So I remember that us kids wanted to go to McDonald's. Jane was supposed to take us there, but we lived close enough to walk. It was just outside of our neighborhood and probably less than a mile away, so all of us kids left my uncle's house and started walking there. I don't really recall much about the walk there, but when we arrived at the McDonald's, we went in and got Happy Meals. Then we went to the area in the back that had the play place and started hanging out there. Us kids were going through the jungle gym tunnels and down—
Holy shit, we're 7 minutes in, and I've been recording for 13 minutes. I gotta stop, man. I'm sorry. That's the last time that I'm pausing it. I'm done.
The play place and started hanging out there. Us kids were going through the jungle gym tunnels and down the slides and stuff in the play place. As you know, the play place would be at the back side of the restaurant in like another room back then. Then there were a few tables in that area and many more tables in the regular dining room part of the McDonald's.
I'm familiar.
From what I remember, there were not too many people at the McDonald's that day. But as us kids were in the play place, there were a few other kids that joined in who I didn't know. I think it was 2 or 3 of them. After playing for a long time, I remember also noticing that there was a woman sitting in a chair in the play place room sort of watching us. I assumed that she was a parent of one of the kids who I didn't know. The lady was the only adult in that room, and my cousin Jane was sitting in the other McDonald's dining room not really watching us. So I remember that after a while I went down one of the slides, and I was not that far away from the woman when I got to the bottom. She was looking at me, and I sort of had to walk by her. When I did, she said hi to me, and I stopped and said hi back to her. She called me over closer to her, and I was confused.
Stranger danger.
I remember that she seemed friendly.
Ew.
The woman then asked me if I wanted to get some food.
Nope.
I was confused and said that I already did. She asked me if I wanted an ice cream sundae. I said sure. Then what the woman said next made me very suspicious.
Oh,
She asked me to go out to her car really quick and get some coins with her to buy the ice cream. I already found it strange that she was talking with me in the first place. This just seemed really weird. I was young but not stupid. My parents had told me to never go in.
I would have been young and stupid. I'm sorry. I would have fallen for that shit. I'm not gonna lie. I would have been too peer pressured to whatever. Last time pausing, swear to God.
A stranger's car. I didn't really answer the woman. That's when she said, "Come on," and started to get up and sort of grab my hand.
Ew.
I just turned and ran away from her back to the jungle gym
There
at
you
that
go.
point. All the other kids were playing inside of it. When I got back in, I went up and went through some tunnels until I saw my cousins. Then I went to a window in the tunnel and looked out. The woman was still sitting there and just watching us, sort of. I happened to run into one of the other kids in the play place. I asked him if that was his mom, and he said no. Then I asked the other kid, and she also said that was not her mom.
Ew.
So this woman was not a parent of anybody in the play place. I thought that was kind of weird. I didn't really want to leave and go near her again. However, maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, I remember looking out again and the woman was not there. Not too long after this, Jane came into the play place room and said that it was time for us to go. So at that point, all of us kids walked out to leave. As we were going through the main part of McDonald's, I saw the woman sitting by herself at a booth. We left the McDonald's then and started heading home. For the first part of the walk back, it was normal. But I would say about halfway, I remembered that this car drove down the road really slow past us. And when it did, I was sure that I saw the same woman was driving it. It went out of sight, but like a minute or two later, I saw it drive by again. And then, a short time after that, when we were on the next road, which is quieter, it started driving slowly behind us. Jane had picked up on this as well, and I remember that she told us to walk faster. We did sort of, but with a bunch of kids that were young, it was probably hard. I remember that suddenly, Jane told us to follow her. She had turned and started going into a random person's yard. We all followed her and went around the house and behind it. She must have known the neighborhood really well and knew where she was going, because the next thing I knew, we walked through like 2 or more people's yards, and then we went back on our street. I had no idea where we were until I saw the street. Then we were able to make it back safely to my uncle's house. Jane made us all go inside, and I remember that she told her parents about the car following us. That's when I told her about the woman I saw. I'm not really sure what happened after that. I don't know if they called the police or if they called the McDonald's or anyone. I'm just really glad that I didn't agree to go with that woman. Looking back, it kind of gives me the creeps to think about it.
Yeah, that could have ended badly. You don't know where you're going in that situation. One's basement or overseas. That's scary as fuck. Alright, on to the third one.
This happened just a couple of years ago. It's one of the craziest things that's ever happened.
Actually, you know what? Also, these restaurants, these versions of them, those weren't too bad either. Honestly, like, I think this is when I started to look at restaurants like this around, like, middle school. And I was like, hey, these McDonald's look kind of cool. Like these layouts look kind of nice. Kind of like modernized, you know what I mean? But, like, it's when they make it just one concrete box. That's what pisses me off. You know what I mean? So, I would love variety. I would love these ones. Because that's how it was, I think. Back in, like, the mid-2010s, there was a good mix of it. Like, the colorful ones were dying out, but you still had some. And you had a mix of these ones and the classic ones. I think they should go back to that. You can have your real estate ones where you save money on them, and if the restaurant fails, you can sell it and all that stuff. And then you have the mainstay ones, your most popular ones, the best performing ones. Those should be in the classic arch type of thing, type buildings. So
happened to me for sure. One day, I went to McDonald's to do some work. It can be a really good place to get work done from time to time. It's similar to a coffee shop, because in many McDonald's locations, it's very quiet in the dining room most of the time. Plus, they have
I have done work in there when I used to work there. For, like,
so I went to the McDonald's location that was closest to my apartment. It was roughly a 5-minute drive, and after I got there, I think maybe one other person was sitting down. It was sometime in the morning, and I set up my computer at a spot in the middle of the restaurant with sort of high chairs. There was an outlet right there, and I plugged my computer into it. So, over the next chunk of time, I was just sitting there and working mostly. At one point, I got up and got some coffee and then came back to my seat. Some people came and went, but I didn't really notice them much. Then, after I'd been there for probably 3 hours at least, I was going to get another coffee. However, when I got up, I then realized that I didn't have my wallet. It had been in my jacket pocket on the left side, and I had taken my jacket off and it was hanging on the seat that I was sitting on. At first, I thought that I must have dropped it or it had fallen out of the pocket. I looked around the floor though and couldn't see it anywhere. Then I looked through all my stuff and checked all my pockets. I was very confused for a few moments because I couldn't find it. Leading up to that, I'd been very focused on my computer and sort of zoned out from the rest of the McDonald's. So I didn't know exactly when or how I could have lost my wallet. I just knew that I obviously had it about 2 hours prior when I got coffee.
Best thing that you can do if you have a wallet and you're, like, nervous about losing it or, like, you've lost it before, best thing to do, get, like, a shirt pocket or, like, a jacket that, like, can be worn inside and it looks natural with, like, a front inside pocket that you can just put it in there. Like, that's what blazers are so cool to me. Like, blazers, you just put that shit over, you got the pockets inside, you take the cloth out, put something in there, blah, 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 blah. Like, you should be able to do that with a wallet on most shirts, in my opinion. With, like, a regular t-shirt with, like, a front pocket here, you can't really stick a wallet in that. It just looks awkward, it feels awkward, it doesn't look right, whatever. But if it's, like, cold, and it's, like, cold in a lobby like this because it's winter outside, and you're just trying to, like, chill, and you got, like, a flannel, and then, like, a jacket over that, and you're just, you know, just hanging out inside, you should put it in the flannel pocket up front with the jacket over it. So there's, like, layers of protection, it's up front, it's on you, it's buttoned in a lot of the time. That's how you keep that secure. Last time, I'll pause it.
Then I looked on my phone, and I noticed something that I hadn't realized before. There was a notification on my phone from about 10 minutes prior. It was from my bank, and it said that my credit card purchase from McDonald's for like $1 had been approved. I hadn't used my credit card when I got the coffee. I had used my debit card.
Ew.
So now I was very confused.
Yeah.
But then I had the thought that somehow somebody had stolen my wallet in this very same McDonald's and used it.
Yikes.
To me, that made sense, but it seemed really crazy.
Yeah,
I
how could
looked
you have
around,
lost
not
that?
thinking anyone would be dumb enough to stay around the scene of the crime. But there was this one man sitting alone by himself at a booth sort of far away from me.
Even if they
I
did, they
saw
have
that he
cameras,
too was on his
right?
laptop, and he had one large drink at the table with him. No other food. Other than that, there was a man and a woman sitting who were both eating food. I thought that maybe the guy had stolen my wallet. Then he had used my credit card to get the drink.
Ew.
And you do not need a PIN to use the credit card, just the debit card. Obviously, though, I didn't want to just go up and confront him. I had absolutely no proof of anything. It was just a coincidence at this point. I stayed there on my computer looking at the screen, really just thinking about what I should do. I was about to cancel my credit card when I saw the man get up from his seat out of the corner of my eye. He walked over to the little screen where you order. When he did, he sort of went out of my sight, so I didn't see what wallet he took out or what card he used. But then, literally right after the guy walked away from the screen, I got a notification on my phone. It said that another purchase from McDonald's had been approved. This one was for more money. At that point, I knew that this was the guy for sure who had stolen my wallet. I couldn't believe that he had the nerve to stay in here while I was still there. It was almost like he was mocking me. He sat back down at the booth after that.
Pretty much.
At that point, I got up and I walked over to him. I went right up to where he was sitting and he looked over at me. When he did, I said, "Give me my wallet back." The guy didn't say anything and I demanded it again. I told him that I knew he had stolen it from me.
Where is this going?
Then the man started completely denying it. He claimed that I was crazy. I told him that I had proof, and I started to go on about how I saw him using my credit card and I had a charge for it. I was taking out my phone to show him, and as I was saying these things, the man put his laptop into his backpack quickly and then started getting up. He walked right past me as I was still talking to him. I knew that he was going to try to leave, so I followed him. He left the McDonald's building and I tried grabbing him, but he shoved me back and took off running. He ran to his car in the parking lot, so I quickly ran to mine. The guy left really fast, but thankfully the roads were not too busy.
Wait, did you leave
and
your
I was
stuff
able to see
inside?
his car down the road when I left.
The rest of your stuff?
He came up to a red light, which was kind of lucky for me, because he had been kind of far in front of me and he was also going sort of fast. At that point, I called the police. I got the guy's license plate and I knew the car type, so I relayed that information to the cops. And it's a good thing that I did, because after the light turned green, the guy pretty much sped away from me. He started driving faster and faster. At first, I was keeping up, but soon he started going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit and then 30 miles an hour over the speed limit. And I just wasn't willing to go that fast. So I slowed down and I let him get away. But I told the police the direction that he was going.
You just
At that point is when I realized that I had forgot my laptop and everything else at the McDonald's, so I drove back. This was maybe 10 minutes after I had left. When I got back to the McDonald's, thankfully all my stuff was still there where I had been sitting. And also, the food that the guy had ordered with my credit card was ready and at the counter. So I went over and I picked it up and ate it. It was pretty good. A while later, the police contacted me saying that they had my wallet. Apparently, the guy had been speeding still and actually led the cops on a brief chase.
What a moron,
He ended up giving it up though, and they recovered my wallet. Looking back, that was one of the craziest events that I've ever been a part of. I probably should not have followed the guy in my car. Other than that, I'm just really grateful to have my wallet back.
Wait, okay. I don't want to shit on this at all because these are entertaining stories. It's not really horror, right? I mean, it's weird that he would take the wallet right in front of him and then sit there and order right in front of him. That's bizarre. I was expecting like fully scary stories. Some of these are just regular crimes. I don't know. Number 4. Can't really complain. This is someone else's content.
This
so let me
has to
shut
be
up.
the worst thing that's ever happened in my time working at McDonald's. I used to work there years ago, and
this is kind of the same thing. Oh my god, the world is so white after taking these off. Holy shit. What was I saying? These type of buildings, these ones. This is not what I was thinking of when I was talking about like the box type building. But I would say this fits. These are ugly. These are ugly as well. These are they're not as fancy as the last one. They're not, they have the arch stuff, the golden arches there for like the fries and stuff like that. They have the little banners hanging down or whatever those are called. But it's not the same. Like mostly brick. It's still a similar box shape. It's a long box shape. No uniqueness to it. This is very drab. very boring, very stale. It's like trying to balance the corporate bullshit and having no character while also trying to remain like that sort of vibe that the classic buildings gave. It's just not there. It's just not there at all. Second least favorite, in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts.
And I had the job for just about 6 months.
That's my tier list.
Most
so
of the
far.
time that I spent there, I would just take people's orders behind the counter.
Okay, we have another
I was
employee
young,
story.
and it was one of my first jobs. One day, I remember that the place was pretty busy. There were quite a few of us working, and I was kept busy taking people's orders. So at one point, a man ordered, and I didn't even really remember him. That was until he came back up with me with his bag of food. He claimed that his french fries were cold and that he didn't want pickles on his burger, but he got them anyways. Right away, I felt like the man was going to be a problem, because I was right in the middle of taking somebody else's order and there was a line of people waiting. The fact that he just walked right up and interrupted was pretty
Can't
annoying
stand those
and
people.
rude.
Fuck those
And
people.
he was also really rude the way he was talking as well. I tried to ask the guy if he could wait a minute, but he refused. He got right up in my face. I tried to get him to calm down and asked what he wanted. The man started demanding a refund and to get a new order as well. Just then, my manager Linda started walking over and interrupted. She said, No, don't give this man a refund. We're not doing this again. Then she asked the man to leave the store and threatened to call the police. I realized then that maybe there was a bit of a history with this guy. The man instantly started cursing at Linda. She kept telling him to get out of her store. Then they went back and forth for a short time before the man finally stormed off. Then Linda announced to everybody that if he came back to call the police. I was told that the guy was supposedly banned from our McDonald's for always causing problems. I guess he was always doing things like that. Well, I continued working, but only like 5 minutes later I saw the man. He was not inside of the McDonald's though, but outside in the parking lot. We had very large windows on the building, and there was a parking lot on both sides as well. I just noticed he was kind of walking around the park.
Yo, by the way, I forgot to mention, I've worked at 2 different McDonald's in my lifetime. One, I worked there for like a day. The other one, I worked there for years. The second one that I worked at, after I had turned like 20, I think, looked exactly like that. And dude, oh my god, it was already bad. It's why I only worked there one day. This setup, this whole thing, to me is so ugly. I mean, the reason I paused it was because I wanted to point out, damn, I want a cookie right now, but
parking lot. I was still taking orders though, but I thought that maybe the man would come back inside. Like a minute later though, I saw him walking, holding a really large rock. He was still outside, and he must have picked it up from the rocks that we had somewhere in our landscaping. Then he proceeded to walk over to one of the cars in the parking lot. I recognized it to be Linda's car. He then got on top of the car and stood on the roof, and then threw the rock at her windshield, which smashed it.
Oh, hell no.
When it happened, a bunch of people looked over from the noise and saw it. The man then put his hands up in the air as if he had won something. He smiled, started laughing, and then jumped down and walked away. I took my phone out and called the police. Meanwhile, a few moments later, Linda came running out and saw what happened.
Unreasonable
She ran out of the store to her car. A short time later, the cops arrived and questioned a bunch of people, as well as looked around for the man. He was picked up pretty fast, not that far away.
Really?
When I got off of work like an hour later, I know that Linda was still outside by her car talking to the police. I felt bad for her, but hopefully she had car insurance that would cover that.
Hopefully.
I didn't work at McDonald's for that long, but long enough to witness that crazy scene.
Again, like, not really horror, man. Like, that's not... Okay.
I went to McDonald's at night not too long ago. I go there all the time, and usually late at night. You see, I work at Walmart.
Hold on, I gotta see this setup here. Oh yeah, that's the box shit. That's the box. Those are the box restaurants. The gray, disgusting, corporate real estate business box. Fuck those. Those are the worst ones. Fuck those.
And I typically get off work at like 11 p.m. or so. I live in an apartment nearby with my roommate, and it's less than a mile away. I often walk to and from work, and right on the way back is a McDonald's. They're open 24 hours, so I go there a lot after work. One night, I left work at Walmart and started heading home. I was walking back, however, as I passed by the McDonald's, I realized how hungry I was. So I walked inside and ordered some food on the touchscreen menu.
When you're hungry,
as I was doing that, a guy randomly walked up to me. Now, we were literally the only 2 people in the McDonald's that were not employees, and this guy had entered after me. I looked over at him. He was kind of short, but was wearing a winter hat and jacket. The guy told me that he had followed me from Walmart. I was confused. Before I said anything, though, the guy laughed a little and then walked away from me.
Ew!
I finished ordering, and then I went and I sat down to wait for my order, far away from the other guy. We both just sat there inside of the McDonald's on opposite ends. A few minutes later, my order was done, and I went up and got it. Then I walked outside of the McDonald's. I had been hoping that the man would not follow me out, but he did. After I started walking on the sidewalk, I heard the guy following me. I had no clue why this random guy would be following me.
What the fuck?
It was pretty much a straight walk back to my apartment.
So he went in there with you
so
to
I
wait
kept
for
going
you so
with
he could
the guy
follow
maybe
you
30
again.
feet back. I thought about running for it or stopping and confronting the guy, but I did neither at first. When I had made it to where I could see my building in the distance, I thought I heard the man getting closer.
God.
At that point, I couldn't take it anymore and I just started running. But when I did, I heard the man yell something at me. He said, "Go ahead and run. I know where you live." This really freaked me out. I kept running though. Maybe he was just trying to scare me. I sprinted all the way back to my apartment complex and then I got into the building and went inside. The man did not catch me or anything, and I wasn't sure where he was at that point because I didn't see him, and I didn't hear him either. Then I quickly went to my apartment and made it inside. I locked the door behind me and finally stopped to catch my breath. I felt safe now, and my roommate was already sleeping by this time.
Why would you feel safe?
Maybe 5 minutes later, though, I heard a knock at my apartment door.
Ew!
I knew it was the guy who'd been following me. He really did know where I lived. I walked over to the door, and as I did, I heard him laughing from the other side.
Ew!
I looked through the peephole, and he was standing there, seeming very amused. Then he turned and walked away. After that, he did not come back. I still wonder why the guy did that to me. Was he just joking around? But how did he know where I lived? It was very weird.
Oh, hell no. That last one was horror. That one was good. They were working up to that. I see the vision. Oh my god. That's so fucking creepy. Oh my god, just the thought of that. Him laughing, knowing that you're looking through the peephole and then walking away like, I'm satisfied. I got what I wanted. Just to show you I was serious. That's fucking weird. Oh my god. Yo, before I finished out this video, I remembered during that last story I had. This is not really a scary story at all, but it's a weird experience that probably amounts to literally nothing. But when I used to work at McDonald's, worked there for 2 years, started when I was 16, and then I worked there for a couple of years, way into after I had turned 18. That was around the time of COVID, where everything was locked down. There were no businesses open for very long, and so that meant nobody was going anywhere. Now, my primary mode of transportation to and from work was Ubering, because I didn't have a car, and I didn't have my license, and I didn't have any of that stuff, nor could I really afford it. So I was going to work making like $9 to $10 an hour. At that point, 6 days a week. Making just enough to put some away in my savings, pay for subscription services, whatever I was using then, buy a couple things here and there, and pay for my Ubers for the next bye-week. When COVID happened, no Ubers at night. No one was out doing anything, so there was no reason for Uber drivers to be Ubering, which meant a lot of the time when I was on those closing shifts and we were there till 1, 2 a.m., I then had a 2-hour walk back home. One night, when I was doing that, for whatever reason, sometimes around that COVID time, you would pass people. I remember I started passing one guy, like, on my walk every single day. Like, every single night. He was headed in the opposite direction. I assume we were both coming back from work and we were in the same situation. Never saw, like, his face, never looked at him, never even said anything, never whatever. We would just pass each other. And, sometimes that would just happen. Cars weren't even out at this time. This COVID, like, literally, there was no reason for anybody to be driving anywhere, right? So, very rarely would you see a car. Sometimes you would. Sometimes you would get a weird situation, like I would be on my phone. And I think, I don't know if they were trying to scare me. One car just drove past, and, like, this dude hanging his head out the passenger window, like, screamed something at me. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't even hear what he said. I don't know what the goal was. It was loud as fuck. It was obnoxious as fuck. I didn't even look up from my phone just because I didn't want to give him the reaction that he was trying to get, obviously. I don't know how I don't know what he said, but I didn't hear him. One night when I was walking, and I had like the whole walk ahead of me, the whole 2-hour walk. After that shift, I was exhausted. There was one guy walking in the same direction as me. And again, That's a long walk. You got a lot of different neighborhoods that you got to walk through. And this guy is a certain distance behind me. I don't feel any sense of danger just from going the same direction as somebody, but it's an awkward position to be in, right? So I'm just walking, doing my thing. I'm not even on my phone. I'm just, in my head, because that was such a weird time for me with nobody out, like the whole world seeming like it didn't exist, at that time, just walking by myself in an empty world, a quiet night, every single night, doing that, not having friends, not, talking to people, having social anxiety, that was a weird time, so it's just in my head. This guy is walking behind me, going the same direction for blocks and blocks and blocks, and at one point, for whatever reason, he starts whistling. I'm not making this up. It was weird. I was trying not to be scared. I wasn't really feeling any fear, but it was definitely weird, and I started to get a little bit more suspicious. I tensed up. I got ready for just in case, and this guy is like whistling. And as he's whistling, he's like trailing further and further back. So the whistling sounds more and more distant, but I'm like looking out the corner of my eye. He's still there, still following, just like the separation is getting bigger, like the distance is growing. We'd been walking on the same path, the same side of the sidewalk that whole time, and after that you decide, yeah, now's a good time to start whistling, just out of the blue, after I've been like going the same direction as this guy, following him or whatever, and then like eventually the whistling stops, and then it starts up again, and it's quieter. He's further back, and then it stops again, and I'm like waiting like 5 minutes because I don't want to be like looking back, or like looking out of my peripheral vision enough times for him to like notice. So I'm just like doing it every once in a while the whole time, just to see, like, make sure he's not, doing anything, or like not like getting closer or whatever, or like not holding anything. It's just, you got to be careful. And then I look back and I don't see anything, and I'm like, I don't want to like look back and see if he's still there, and he is, and he just sees me fully turn around and look at him, because then that's awkward, right? But I was like, fuck it, I don't see him back there, and I haven't heard the whistling, so let me just look back, and he was gone. So I don't know what the fuck that shit was about, but that was a creepy occurrence. Like I said, literally amounted to nothing, but that's something that I've been through. It's kind of McDonald's related. Just throwing it in there to end off the video. Let me know if you enjoy this stuff. Leave a like. Link to the original video will be down in the comments if you want to see more of his stuff. Loved this video. Great stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching.